So I have seen this video come up in my feed time and time again, and if you are anywhere in the same sphere of YouTube as I am, it's the 60% of men, 30% of women are now single. And I am going to admit that I've actually empathized with the people who are upset about this study, men and women alike, because men really have not been given the good word in society. They haven't felt like they have belonged in a term. Now, I'm not one of these MGTOW guys who believes that you should swear off all women because I have a story for you, and I'm not going to name names. But when I was in high school / college, dating was much, much easier. Finding a partner and keeping them around was a lot easier. I was able to not feel stressed out about someone trading me up for a better option, and I was way more secure in dating than I am today. And currently, I am dating someone who treats me very, very well. But in that buffer period between college and today, there were a lot of toxic dating partners that I had taken on who had made my self confidence go down to the point where I developed a looking glass self of thinking I was no good. Now, if you guys don't know what a looking glass self is, a looking glass self is basically enough people treat you horribly, you actually think that you are horrible and you don't resist the mistreatment and you start to accept it. And it's a really bad cycle to get caught in because you think you're treated bad and then you attract a lot of predatory people who like to prey on that low self-esteem and low self-confidence to keep taking advantage of you, and then you get sapped dry and any life potential basically gets thrown out. And for me, sometimes I still have doubts about my dating life. And I know that my girlfriend does not have she understands. I've told this to her. We've been able to tell each other things in good confidence. And that's the good part, is that's what a healthy relationship should be. However, there's a lot of men who have not found a good relationship. And I was having a discussion with a jujitsu partner who is married and commented on a clip, which is one of those men's podcasts where they roast Instagram models. And we had a clarifying conversation that no, this is not to hate all women or anything like that. But I was telling her that there are two sides to this, to the point where even as a guy, I do see that there's a lot of guys who just are children and make relationships really hard for a lot of women, because women do want a man. They don't want to have to babysit a boy. I've lived with guys my entire life. I'm a man myself, and I have lived with different guys altogether. And let me tell you, the amount of times I have had to have anxiety over my roommates not paying their share of the rent, or giving me a look of how dare you make me pay my share of the rent. Just, it really made things hard for me. The lack of good judgment I saw from a lot of men put a lot of stress and anxiety on me when I had to live with them, because I didn't know if I was going to come home to realize that the house we had rented had burned to the ground. But I also know a lot of good men who have gotten into relationships and had kids with some ladies who absolutely ravaged their lives, and then they are struggling to see their daughters. They are paying for child support, which is really just them paying for their ex-wife's Prada bags. And I have really seen that, women taking out of the child support fund to buy a bunch of fancy clothes and jewelry, and then only dropping about $20 on the kid. It's not fair to the husband, and it's definitely not fair to the kid. But we had a conversation and a very consensus that, yeah, there is a two-way street in this. And sometimes, more often than not, it's already just bad morals. Bad morals in people, not just in dating, but in society overall, where a lot of people are superficial and fake and cutthroat, dog eat dog, you name it. Now, do I wish I had a solution for this, except maybe we should act right? Maybe there's a little bit more to it than that. It's hard to want to put down the revolvers in the wild, wild west because the other gunslinger might not want to put theirs down as fast. That's a little bit of just kind of like a Red Dead reference. But trust between friends, relationships, parents and children are at an all-time low, and that is bad for society overall. And I might be conflating relationships to everything else, but the relationship problem is the same problem as we have in just our everyday society of lack of trust, of lack of companionship, of lack of trust between our fellow citizens, when there's so many people out there who actually yearn for positive emotion and positive relationships and relationships that help us build off of one another, whether it's in the workplace or just training wise or school or teacher student. All you can name all these things. And as a person who has wanted to do right his entire life, only to realize that the world doesn't work like that, I've really had to do the selfish thing, wondering whether I am hurting somebody in who has that same glasses of rose-colored on that causes them to view the world as different than what it really is. I know I worded that terribly, but you catch my drift. I would, without a doubt, love to have everybody put it down and look at themselves, because a lot of people do not take self-accountability. I could sit here for hours on end and tell you stories and stories about people who just showed me how many adult children have made it into this world. But making it into this world in relationships too, because we don't value anything or we don't try and work anything out. And when you have a relationship, it does require a lot of compromise, and people don't like to compromise anymore. They like to have their way. They're special. They have it all figured out. They do what they want to do, and no one's going to tell them other, because they are unique and no one can stop their sunshine, sister. Pretty much an over-exaggerated part, but narcissism is at an all-time high where we don't think to compromise with our partners anymore if we do have them. Usually it's our partners have to make all the sacrifices just to please us, and that could be a very narcissistic and abusive relationship. I have been in a relationship like that before, where I was the one tiptoeing, walking on eggshells, keeping the relationship on life support, but they could not do that, so I had walked away, and it is a waste of energy. It makes you question your self-worth. You look at yourself thinking you deserve that. And especially when that looking glass self shatters and you finally see that you did not deserve to be like that, you could have rage. I actually really like that term, red pill rage, where people snap out of this fairy tale Disney stuff. But we do a lot of dumb things in rage. We follow the wrong followers, and we have a gigantic influx of these quote-unquote red pill influencers who have a lot of real things to say, a lot of smart points. And to me, it's almost like whenever someone like Andrew Tate or Just Pearly Things or one of the Sneakos or something like that opens their mouth, I mean, I wonder, do they actually mean what they're saying, or are they just telling it how it is to gain a following and attack a demographic? I mean, I'm just assuming. I can't prove anything, but it's almost like, do you really think that these people mean what they say, or are they just trying to gain viewers? Because it is a gold mine for getting clout and getting numbers and getting the YouTube algorithm to boost your content, saying they really are demonetized or anything like that. Again, I really don't know, but I think there's a lot of different narratives that people put out there that they filter through cameras. But we often forget that a lot of the YouTube content that we have in front of us is staged, scripted, and is meant to target a specific type of person. I mean, granted, I do agree with what a lot of these red pill guys have to say, because they do say a lot of real things. But what worries me is when you take everything they say as gospel and then you go to hating the opposite sex and trying to take part in this gigantic gender war when nobody really wants to give ground. You are going to never have that peace or that fixing of family units or relationships or nuclear families that you want, because, when two people are slugging it out, you can't really get them to stop hating each other when they're just throwing bombs at each other. And no, I cannot speak for everybody or say that I know everybody's struggles or life path or anything like that, but I did want to make a video on this because this is a very interesting topic in our dating realm and why people aren't finding the right partners. I also wonder, are we the first generation to have to deal with this, or have the generations before us drop the ball with their marriages to influence us to think that relationships are something that you can just toss away? Because relationships are something that require a lot of work. But it's hard to bounce ideas because there's very little solutions out there to try and stop today so things can be better tomorrow. Because what's going to happen is the generations before us, and this is my worry, they're going to see how we're acting, and then they are going to copy what we're doing. The generation, after us, like the younger generations, are going to see us as an example. And right now, with our struggles, we are not a good example to set. We're going to have a lot more nihilistic kids growing up. We're going to have a lot more kids not getting the guidance they need, and it's only going to snowball and get even worse than it is today. And if you're watching this video and you're enjoying what I'm saying or think that there's any truth, I can't give a solution out there because everybody's path is different in life. I do not claim to know what you can and cannot do. I'm not here to sell you some $50 creativity course. I'm just a guy with a small-time channel who is making a video on something he finds very interesting. And it takes the individual to really look inside to say, what can I do in my life to make my happiness better and to make me more appealing, or to make me into a better human being? Because self-improvement, although it doesn't get you all the way, it does get you far in some aspects, whether they're not the ways you thought they were. You might look for a relationship, but you might get everything else. You might get a career, you might get a skill, you might get a following, who knows? But this is just what my thoughts were. I would like to know yours in the comments section. Let me know how we can work towards this, because this is not an overnight thing that we can solve. But let me know in the comments section below how you feel or what you think we should be doing. And I will see you on another episode of whatever this is. Bye.